Are you looking to buy your first semi-truck, or are you looking to refinance for a better rate? In this video, I will cover how to do that using the SBA. If you've watched any of my other videos on how to start a business or buy a business with an SBA loan, these funds can be used for startup costs and to purchase equipment. I wanted to do a breakout video that is strictly on purchasing a semi-truck with an SBA loan. And when I say purchase, I also mean a possible refinance. When we bought our last truck, we needed to go through a dealership. Based on some cash flow issues that were on our books, we were approved with BMO Financial, which is a great company and got us approved with basically no money down, a one-page application, and an interest rate around 9.5%. Being in the finance industry, I know this is quite high, but I also, given the lack of information that they obtained, it's definitely reasonable. If anyone's ever bought a piece of equipment from a bank, and how much paperwork and personal information and multiple conversations that you have to happen before your loan's approved. With this company, it was simple. I put a one-page application in, mostly filled out from the dealer, and all I had to do was put my personal information, my EIN, things like that, what our gross numbers were for sales, and a little bit of information like that, and it was approved. It did hit my personal credit score as an inquiry, which isn't a big deal because it didn't impact it that much. Not nearly as much as my Capital One credit card did, and I'll link to that video right here and down below to tell you exactly what happened. Anytime you get any kind of financing from an outside, normal, traditional bank, you're probably going to pay a higher rate. I use QuickBooks, and with that online platform, I can apply for a working capital loan or equipment or pretty much anything, but I know that the rate is going to go between 9% and 36%. This is the email I got from QuickBooks Capital on whether I should apply in the terms. In this video, I'm going to go into how you would purchase a semi-truck using the SBA process at a traditional bank or traditional lender. If you've been in business for any length of time, the SBA might not be the road you want to take. There are fees involved, and you typically pay a higher rate, but not as high as you would from one of those other lenders that I mentioned. If you get traditional financing, your rate's right now going to be around 6%. The benefit that the SBA has over traditional financing, and I'll link a video here where I list all of the benefits of SBA lending, as well as the advantages of the program, are the fact that you need little down payment. Traditionally, with a conventional financing for a semi-truck, they would look for 20 to probably 30% down based on the collateral. Again, there's those financial institutions like BMO Financial or any of the big heavy equipment financing companies. Typically, they'll do it without any money down, but they're going to charge a higher interest rate, and your credit score needs to be in pretty top shape. The purpose of the SBA is to help small businesses who couldn't normally get traditional lending. And for anybody in the heavy equipment industry, such as trucking or logging or construction, knows those pieces of equipment quickly depreciate and are worth half as much as you paid a year ago. Banks and lending institutions are leery about financing equipment. Unlike real estate, it can quickly disappear and be left in a different state by an upset driver. And the possibility of getting a truck back like that, or even paying for it to be brought across state lines, is extremely expensive for the bank. The SBA gives the bank a comfort level with equipment. Also, you can get much more favorable terms through the SBA process than you could with a traditional loan. Most of the equipment that I finance as a lender typically has a 3 to 5 year repayment. The SBA will go up to a max of 10 years in financing equipment. Now, that being said, the bank that you go through will also have their own lending policy that you'll need to abide by. If you're new to starting out in trucking, and this is your first time you're purchasing a truck, you're going to lease onto a company or run under your own authority, you're going to need a business plan. Even outside the SBA, with traditional lending, you're going to need some sort of business plan. And it's highly unlikely that most banks will lend you the money to a startup company if you don't provide some sort of business plan. I'm going to link another video that I did on writing a business plan, and I'll also post it in the description below. I'm considering launching a course on writing a business plan. Let me know if that'd be something you'd be interested in. Just hit the like button or post a comment below, and let me know if it's a viable option for your business, or if it would be something you'd be interested in checking out. The way that the business plan is going to be curtailed to trucking is if you're going to be leased to a company, then you're going to be paid by either the mile or percentage of load. You're going to have to figure out what your fixed costs are to run your truck. You're going to have to either figure that per mile or per load. Either way you're going to choose, that's the way you can write around your business plan and expect your cash flow to follow. In my original business plan, I listed all of the expenses that I would have by the mile and then did an average of, let's say, 125,000 miles per year. That would be roughly 2,500 miles per week for 50 weeks. I would give if a driver would be off 2 weeks on vacation, or if you had breakdowns, things like that. All of those costs were deducted before the settlement checks ever hit my bank account. Now, I still accounted for them in QuickBooks because they were an expense. Because they were taken out before the settlement check, at the end of the day, that was my net cash flow that came to the company to pay bills. That's what you're most concerned about when you're approaching a lender about a loan. That's the biggest point that the lender is going to look at. Does your cash flow support the debt you're about to take on? If you're tired of being a company driver, then this is a good way to get out on your own. So once you figure out how much your cost for your truck, and it's basically your gross income minus your cost is your net income. One thing your lender is going to absolutely have to have before even considering giving you a loan, and it should be in your business plan, is at least a copy of the contract. This can be a draft of the contract, but it has to spell out the terms in which you're going to run under. The contract that we sign for our company states 75% of revenue, and as long as the receipts and trip papers and mileage are reported, we get paid. It also states that we cover the fuel, the tolls, and every other expense with the truck. We do use a fuel card that is provided by the company, and I think we pay around $4 per driver just for the right to use it, and that's per month. And then the fuel is subtracted from the settlement sheets. Now, most of the time when you work with these companies, they can tell you roughly what you're going to make per week. And obviously, what you make is depending on what type of truck you run, what the fuel mileage is, and if you're on the road as much as the drivers they're talking about. Once you have all that information, as well as the sales invoice or at least a cutout from the newspaper on the truck you want to buy, your business plan and a down payment, you can approach the bank. When you talk to your lender about an SBA loan, tell them exactly what you want to use the money for and say that you'd like a little extra to cover some of your startup costs. This is called working capital, and it's basically a fund in case something happens. Your lender is going to have absolutely no idea what a truck is worth, how it works, how expensive it is, or anything like that. I'm lucky in the fact that because I own a side business of trucking, when I talk to guys that are looking to buy trucks, I know exactly what they're looking for and what they're talking about. Most lenders don't. If you're going to buy a new truck, they can go on the dealer's website or go buy an invoice and get an idea at least what the truck is worth. If you're going to buy a 1993 W900 for $50,000, they're not going to understand why that truck is $50,000 when you can buy a 2013 for the same price. You're going to have to educate them on the value of older trucks. We as lenders are pretty good at numbers and knowing businesses' financials, but when it comes down to actually knowing how the businesses operate, 9 out of 10 times we don't have a clue. The down payment requirements are going to be the same as with any other SBA loan. You're going to need 10% down in cash. So if you want to buy a truck that's $50,000, you're going to have $5,000 down. Now let's say you want to take out a little extra, say working capital. You'd like to pay for your insurance up front. You also need to fill up the truck before you head out. This is what you would call working capital. Because you're not going to receive the first settlement check until probably a week after you've delivered that load, you have to cover those initial costs. If you're lucky, you can get a fuel card, so that's one less cost that you'll have to come out of pocket. But there may be things like lumpers, tolls, and other miscellaneous costs that pop up. Make sure you ask for a good enough cushion, that way if something happened, it can at least carry you through for a little bit. You never know how much you're going to need in the beginning, but it's always good to have some sort of cushion. But if you're buying an older truck, it doesn't hurt to have an extra 10 or 15 grand as a line of credit sitting around just in case you'd have a breakdown. In our case, one of our drivers picked up a load, and the company that was supposed to strap it down didn't do it properly. I believe it was shelving. And he went around a curve to get on the interstate. The load shifted. Luckily, we didn't lose the load, but it still cost $4,000 to have a crane come out and readjust it. In this business, I've learned almost anything can happen and it costs a lot of money. When it does, make sure you're prepared. Working capital can be defined as anything you want, really. It can be to prepay insurance, it could be to letter your truck if you have to, chains, straps, binders, tarps, permits, plates, fuel. Whatever you need is considered working capital. It's an expense that you would normally pay off in 1 year. Basically everything you're going to need to get your business going. So in the example, if you were to spend $50,000 on the truck and you would ask for $10,000 to $15,000 in a line of credit, your total loan you would need would be between $60,000 and $65,000. You would need 10% of that amount, or $6,500. This would be your equity into the deal. There are things that you can count towards equity injection. So let's say you already put a down payment on a truck and you put $2,000. Or you paid an attorney to set up your LLC. some of that money that you spent could be applied as your equity injection to your loan. This is money that you've already put in, so in a way you've already injected equity. Now, as far as actually applying, you want to go to the SBA.gov website, which I will link below, and go to the lender match tool. Or you could Google your local lender and see if there's any in your area that are specific to SBA. Make sure you use a reputable bank or a company you're comfortable dealing with. There's a lot of companies out there on the internet that are kind of shady, and they'll charge you fees and third-party fees to handle your application and all that. Go with a trusted lender. If you have any questions about somebody you're looking at, post it in a comment below, shoot me an email, and I'll check it out and make sure they're legitimate for you. I hope you got a lot of value from this video. If you could do me a favor and give me a thumbs up before you leave, I'd appreciate it. If there's any other topics or questions about lending or loans or business in general, post a comment below and let me know what you'd like me to cover. Until next time, have a great day.